Greetings, folks, and welcome to Insomniac Gaming Theater. I am your host, the Crazy Player, and the theater is now open. And how are you, my fellow Insomniacs? I, for one, am having a really... Actually, it's just an okay day. But it's going to get better now because I'm going to get to play some Warframe, hopefully with some of you all. We'll see how things go as the evening progresses. So, as you can see, there have been a few things that have happened since the last time we gamed together. I had intended to game with you all on Friday, but alas, I was not feeling particularly well. And because of that, I missed out on commenting on some of the things that happened over the weekend and involving Friday's dev stream. Not too much of it was necessarily of huge interest to the beginning player, but there were a few things. First and foremost, they are aiming to release the next expansion for this game, which I must hasten to point out, unlike a lot of other games that are out there, is going to be absolutely free to anybody playing. The next expansion, Fortuna, they hope to have out on November 1st. At least that's what D.E. Steve, the head of the studio, said. Now, those of us who've been in the community for a little bit are aware that while we love Steve, he's just a touch optimistic on his time frames, but let's hope he's right about that. One of the other things that they had mentioned is that they are going to be introducing a new mod for pets that is, for all practical intents and purposes for pets, what vacuum is for sentinels. And just in case you don't happen to remember what that is.
Operator, now get out there and cut down and make the Lotus proud.
Thank you, Ortis. I think I need to turn his volume down again. This is essentially what the mod that they're talking about is. It pulls in all of the material items, so like crafting materials that you find during a mission, credits that drop during a mission, mods, all of that sort of thing. Pulls them all in and transfers them to your inventory. Now, there are a few questions surrounding this, but in general, the community is overjoyed because the number one reason why sentinels are the most common companions used in the game over pets is that pets don't have vacuum. So that is a thing that is about to change, and for the better. Also, while I was doing some off-camera grinding, we got to the point where we could do the MR5 test, and because I wanted to have some things built by the time last Friday's stream started, which didn't start, but again, my apologies, I wanted to have some things built, so I went ahead and did the Master Rank 5 test. Now, I will show you the test again, as we are wont to do, so that you can understand how to do said test. But before I show it to you, there is something I want to point out. There are these handy-dandy gear items, which we received the schematic for, called ciphers. And in particular, you might want to have a few handy just for general purposes, but in particular, the Master Rank 5 test is a place that we might want to have that. It keeps doing that. So this is the new gear wheel, and it can go beyond 12 spaces if we want to. And the one thing that it keeps doing that irritates me is it keeps compacting my items, because normally I like to have these two items assigned to slots 11 and 10, but it keeps moving them to slot 6 and 7, which annoys me. And it'll let me move the fishing spear without unequipping it, but it won't let me... It won't let me move the Nauseam Cutter without unequipping it. In any case... So, before I show you the Master Rank 5 test, though, I wanted to show you why it was so important to me that we do the Master Rank 5 test. And one of them is, as you may recall on our last stream, we got our hands on the schematic for the Dread. Now, the Dread is absolutely my favorite bow in the game. And there is a lot of argument amongst the player base as to whether or not the Dread or the Raktacernos is the best bow in the game. I will freely admit that my entire reasoning for why the Dread is the better bow is based on accessibility. It only requires Mastery Rank 5, and while it does drop at random from Stalker, you will have a few interactions with Stalker over the course of your career, and it is the most likely item to drop. So the chances of you getting it are pretty high, as indicated by the fact that we got it before we could even build it. That said, I do know at least one person who says that he is Master Rank 10 or 12 and has never actually gotten the blueprint to drop. Life is like that sometimes, and apparently RN Jesus is not with him. The other reason I wanted to get to Master Rank 5, I really wish that they would figure out what's up with that lag and get it to stop, is because one of my favorite secondary weapons is available at Master Rank 5, and that is the Atomos. Now, if you had asked me even last Monday what my favorite secondary weapon was, I would have said the Atomos, because it is an absolutely fantastic weapon. However, I got my hands on another weapon, and I think it may not just be my favorite secondary. I think it may actually, because of some buffs that happened to it in the patch a couple of weeks ago, be my favorite weapon in the entire game. However, said weapon is also several master ranks higher than we currently are, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. In any case, we're going to grab our Atomos. Also, over the course of some things, we got our hands on the material components to build one and only one Forma. And I decided to invest that Forma in creating a Helios, which is, this and its prime variant are absolutely my favorite companion.
Tenno, a new alert has begun. It will be marked on navigation.
Thank you, Space Mom. Alas, it's on a planet we don't have access to. And I know I've said this a number of times, but really, I really wish that they would not give us notifications for alerts on planets we can't go to. I know technically we could get somebody from within our guild to take us there. It's called taxiing, but we're not going to do that. So, but we have Helios now, who is absolutely my favorite Sentinel. Also, he comes with his own weapon, and he himself represents, I believe it's 9,000 mastery points, which is very nice. So even if you don't find that you really like having a full codex, it's worth it to build. Sooner or later, we're going to build all of the Sentinels because they are all, at the very least, worth mastery points. You see that lag where I keep getting like, please wait and what have you? I've noticed that since they dropped the big patch a couple of weeks ago, the mainline update, that's been happening, and there have been a number of bugs that are hanging around, so I think there's some optimization that they need to do. lastly, and not most definitely not least, the only silver lining to having missed our showing on last Friday is that Rhino was not going to be ready by then because it takes 3 days to build a Warframe. Well, he's ready now. So we are going to pick up Rhino. And we're going to go back to the arsenal. And we're going to equip some stuff. So, first we're going to equip Rhino. And then we're going to equip the Atomos. We're going to go in here to upgrade. And also over the course of some things, we have managed to get our hands on a couple of Orokin catalysts. Now, I installed one of them in the Dread because it is fantastic. And we are going to install the other one in the Atomos because it too is fantastic. In particular, they work nicely together because they do different things. So, the Atomos is going to be our go-to weapon for clearing out what we will refer to as trash mobs. And if you don't know what that means, so next time we're on a mission, observe how many enemies there are around us, and notice that they kind of look like a mob because there's a whole lot of them. Well, trash mobs are the ones that are the mobs that we're going to end up killing in such numbers that if the game didn't keep track of them, that honestly we wouldn't either. So that is what we mean when we say trash mobs. Now, we're going to go ahead and throw Pistol Gambit on there because we had the points, although, as you can see, it wasn't a huge jump. However, okay, so, the Atomos is great for trash mobs. The Dread, because of its high single target damage, is good for things like bosses that don't move much, heavy units, things like that. In particular, one of the things I want to show you is that with a single, not fully maxed out point strike, the Dread has a critical chance of greater than 100%, which is amazing. Now you may ask yourself, is there even a point to having a critical chance of higher than 100% in this game? Actually, yes. Yes, there is. Because there are multiple categories of crits. At this point, we are absolutely guaranteed to get a regular or yellow crit on every single shot that we fire from our Dread. And because we have vigilante armaments on here, every time we fire, we have a 50% chance of getting 2 arrows. You won't actually see 2. One of them is invisible, but it's a second hit. We also have a 12% chance of getting an improved critical, or what are called orange crits. And then, also because of vigilante armaments, we have a 5% chance of having either our regular crit or our orange crit enhanced further. And if it's the orange crit that's enhanced, which will happen, then the numbers will appear in red. Now, basically what those do is they enhance the multiplier of our crit. And you'll notice with Vital Sense on here, we have a 4x multiplier. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the finer details in this particular stream about how all of that works. In particular, though, if you do want to know about it, I suggest you go check out my buddy Laser's YouTube channel. He I think just earlier today, posted a video about that. And it's a very good video. He explains it very well. I do intend to eventually start making YouTube content as well, and I will probably take a crack at explaining it myself. nonetheless, it is a thing. Now, also, because we have a 100% critical chance, one of the mods that we were able to get our hands on is a mod called Hunter Munitions. And that means that every single time we have a weapon, we have a critical, we have a 25% chance to apply status chance, or to apply the slash status, which, as I mentioned a couple of streams ago, the reason that we love slash so much is because it ignores armor value, the status at chance from it anyway. So not only do we have a 25% chance from Hunter Munitions, but we also have a 28% chance from the bow's own status chance, which means that every time we shoot somebody, if they don't die from the initial hit, which is certainly possible because it does quite a lot of damage, and remember, every single shot that comes out of this weapon, because it has a 112.5% critical chance, every single shot is guaranteed to not be doing this number, but rather multiplied by this. Now, because of the way the multiplier works, it's actually 3x because it takes the base. It's complicated, and I don't know why they do it that way. Basically, we have a chance of doing 3 times this number. We're doing 3 times this number every single time we hit an enemy, and every single time we hit an enemy, there is a chance that we will apply the slash status, doing a damage over time effect based off of 3 times this number in terms of damage. It's a lot. And then there's headshot multipliers, which again, we're not going to go into. Suffice it to say that in general, if we can, we want to shoot the enemy in the head. On the whole, this is a very good single target weapon that does a lot of damage. Now, it occurs to me, I didn't actually tell you why the Atomos is so good for clearing trash mobs. It is a beam weapon, and in particular, it is a kind of beam weapon where when it hits an enemy, it jumps from one enemy to the next, chaining from them until I think it has a maximum number of links of 5. And does damage to all of them. And because of that, it has a very good... Because of that, it's very good at clearing out large groups of enemies because it hits multiple enemies simultaneously. Now, since we just got Rhino, we need to upgrade Rhino. And as things were going on, I took the opportunity to do an alert to pick up the corrosive projection aura. Now, as you can see, Rhino by default comes with a V or Matter-Eye polarity. I understand why they did this, because all of the auras, like Deadeye over here, which increases the damage for sniper rifles, all of the auras that are for increased weapon damage are V or Matter-Eye polarities. And in general, I can see why they did that and why it would make sense for Rhino. Except that if we were to max this out, I believe it gives us 18% additional damage with sniper rifles. That bonus is almost universally dwarfed by the fact that when we max out corrosive projection, it reduces the armor value of an enemy by 30%. Especially against high-level enemies, that minus 30% armor value is going to be worth much, much more than any of the weapon percentage bonuses we get off of these kinds of auras. So this and Energy Siphon are the two big meta auras. These are the two auras that pretty much that unless a Warframe has a specific need for another type of aura.
There's a time-limited mission alert available. Check navigation.
I need to check my audio settings. I think my sound got turned up. In any case, unless a Warframe has a specific need for another kind of aura, and there are a few that specifically want something else, but unless it has that kind of specific need, these are the two auras. And for Rhino, we're going to put on corrosive projection because unlike Volt, who is very energy hungry and therefore wants a lot, and therefore energy siphon is better, Rhino isn't as energy dependent. So corrosive projection is going to be the better choice there. And we are going to invest some of our energy, some of our resources into maxing out that aura, because there's no point in not having it maxed out, since it gives us so many bonuses. Alright. Now,
Accounted for, operator. I have not taken any.
thank you, Orders. Now, as you can see, since the polarity does not match the polarity for corrosive projection, instead of getting 7 out of it, we're only getting 5. I would honestly say that when we eventually get to the point where we can start spending Forma, that one of the first things we want to do is change this polarity slot. That said, we need to start putting other mods onto Rhino. Now, you notice that Rhino has these two D polarities, or what is that, Vazarin? Vazarin. Now, most of the frames that we have, we're not that concerned with it. But in Rhino's case, we are happy to have two D polarities because we want to put Vitality on here, and we want to put Steel Fiber on here. Despite only having an armor of 190, which is actually lower than Excalibur, you absolutely want to, at every opportunity, pump Rhino's armor and health pools because of reasons I will show you in a little bit. Let's see, what else do we have here? If we can't put anything else on here, that's okay for now. Ooh, we have Gladiator Aegis, which is nice, but I think I would actually rather increase Steel Fiber by another point than do that. A regular streamline. Oh, we have a basic streamline. That might not be a bad idea. I think I'll just increase Steel Fiber by a couple of points. And the reason we're upping it by 2 points instead of 1 is because since Rhino has the polarity that matches this, it would cost us the same to up it 1. It would cost us the same capacity to up it by 1 or 2. So we are going to go ahead and up it by 2. Now, let's take a look at Rhino's abilities, and then we'll get into fashion framing him to make him match the rest of our arsenal. So at this point, since he is unranked, he has only his first ability, which is Rhino Charge, where, he rushes at the enemy and ragdolls them, basically knocks them away. this is a fair enough ability and useful in more than a few circumstances. And there's an augment for Rhino that we will want to pick up eventually that will make this very useful. But the number one reason why people love Rhino so much and why he is such a popular frame is actually this. His second ability, Iron Skin, which we will pick up at rank 3. And the thing about Iron Skin is that it basically gives Rhino, in addition to his shields and his health, it basically gives him a third health pool comprised entirely of armor. And specifically ferrite armor, which is the toughest kind of armor in the game with the most armor reduction. So it gives him theoretically a huge pool of health to draw upon, because its base is several thousand points when you get up to the higher levels of the mods, and with some of those augments I was talking about earlier, I personally have managed over on my testbed account to get an Iron Skin pool of 13,000 Iron Skin, and my buddy Brozyme, who barely knows I exist, but does, I've actually seen him on his Rhino manage to get a pool somewhere in the neighborhood of 16,000 armor, and in particular, because of the way armor works, the bigger the pool, the more the reduction, and once you get to a certain point, you're at 99. Basically, it is its own separate pool of health that also takes less damage the more of it there is, until it gets to the point where it's taking 1% of all of the damage that is inflicted upon it. It's fantastic and terrifying. Not listed here is that in addition to it giving him a separate health pool, essentially, it also makes him immune to every single status effect in this game. Which means that the enemy, an Arctic Atomos tries to slow you down with his cold aura, Rhino laughs. An Arson Atomos tries to light you on fire, Rhino laughs. Those laser grids that we run into on Corpus bases try to knock you down, Rhino laughs and runs through them. Basically, every single thing in this game, every single horrifying thing in this game tries to do something terrible to you, and Rhino laughs in its face, because he is immune to most of it. The one very notable exception, because this isn't technically a status effect, is that there is a kind of enemy called I believe it's a parasitic Exmi, maybe it's the leech Exmi. In any case, there's a kind of enemy that drains your energy, and Iron Skin does not protect against that. Other than that, though, if it can even remotely be referred to as a status effect, Rhino ignores it as long as he has his Iron Skin on, and he should always have his Iron Skin on. Always. Next up, we have Roar, which is a damage increasing ability. Anybody who's in the area effect, when you activate Roar, does more damage. Now, I need to point out, when we say does more damage, that's weapons, that's abilities, that's anything, and it's based off of it comes from the Warframe themselves. So as long as they're in the area of effect, when you activate the ability, it will continue to cause them to do more damage. And it's always set on Rhino, so Rhino always benefits from it. Okay? They can then run off and go annihilate an entire map's worth of enemies, but as long as they were in the area of effect when you started, then they're affected by this. This makes him an excellent support frame as well, because he can increase the damage of any group he is a part of. And lastly is Rhino Stomp. And I want you to read the flavor text here. Rhino stomps with sufficient force to disrupt time, tumbling enemies around him in stasis. So the first thing this does is that it ragdolls enemies. It throws them into the air, and they get knocked down, but they get knocked down in a way that involves them flying through the air briefly. And then pretty much at the center point of that arc, they're put into a kind of stasis. Although stasis is misleading, because you might look at that and go, oh, I can't hurt them. Oh, no. They are still vulnerable to your damage. In fact, that is the entire point of the Rhino Stomp, is you stomp, and then you shoot whatever it is that is affected by the stomp. And in particular, and very notably, most bosses are not immune to this effect, which means if you have a boss that has an invulnerability phase, right? Or like we did Lech Krill, right? And he has a certain point where he is vulnerable, and the rest of the time he's not, until you can just kill him, right? Well, you can use Rhino Stop to increase the time when he is vulnerable. Another boss that we will face later, oh, dagnabbit, I am forgetting his name. He's the Saturn boss, though. He lights everything on fire. Not only is Rhino fantastic because he gets to laugh in the face of all of the flames, but the boss has this thing where sections of his armor will open to vent the heat that he has accumulated, and you need to shoot him in his vents in order to do maximum damage. Well, you hit Rhino Stomp at the right moment, and you can freeze him with his vents open, and then annihilate him. It's fantastic. This is one of the reasons why Rhino is one of my favorite frames. Over on my testbed account, he is by far my most used frame, and although there are some other frames I think I like better on the whole now, he is still in my top 3. He is a fantastic frame, and I am so glad that we have him, and I strongly suggest, as I have in pretty much every stream that we've done since this channel started, or since I started doing Warframe anyway, that you pick up Rhino and build him as soon as you can, which we did. There's a reason. Alright, so we need to fashion both Rhino and the Atomos. Oh, and by the way, I do need to point out, I think Rhino has some of the coolest skins in the entire game. If these skins did not cost... If a number of these skins did not cost real-world money, I would buy them in a heartbeat. And in particular, he also has one of the nicest deluxe skins, which you can buy with platinum. We don't have enough to buy the skin even if we wanted to, but this is his Palatine skin, which is so pretty. This is the Blade of the Lotus skin, which came out in the last Tenogen round, and makes him look like a knight. It combines the, full plate armor with the Rhino aesthetic, and is just fantastic. The Mastodon armor, which is very nice. And then the Scarab armor. And not only are all of these very pretty on their own, but they take color really, really well. Alas, we cannot afford to purchase any of them right now, even if we wanted to. So, instead, we are going to stick to our basic color options. I think we're going to go with the dark blue for a base. And we'll see how, as I recall, yeah. And we definitely want to do that there, because that That makes the edges of his plates look pretty good. Actually, both of them kind of work. So I think I'm going to do this one, though.
Strange. Just did not see the value of those photonic wavelengths until now.
Yeah, I can't even tell what, if anything, the accents is changing, so I don't know that it matters. And then, well, we don't want to make it green because that would match. That blends in. And that shade of blue looks a little too dark, so I guess we're going to leave it as is. And then oh, I like that stance. We'll go with it. And then for the Atomos, definitely the blue. Interesting. Sure, we'll do that. I think that because that makes it stand out a little bit more. I guess we'll do that. I think we'll do the green because that makes it stand out, which means we'll be shooting out green flames, which will be interesting. All right. And then we did. Okay. Right. So all of that is excellent. And now we're going to go to a relay, and I'm going to show you the Master Rank 5 test. And normally, in the previous tests, I have made sure to do that with exactly the equipment that I had. But in this case, that's not going to matter because, oh, yes, I need to check the sound settings. Let's see here. No, it doesn't. It says it's fine, so I guess maybe my headphones are just turned up too high. So the reason the combat equipment doesn't matter is because this is not a combat test. So we're going to go to the relay, I should say. And I'm going to show you the Master Rank 5 test. So we're going to fast travel to Cephalon Simaris. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Tenno are more than just fighters. Prove your intellect by hacking these terminals.
Yes, it's a hacking challenge, and it is timed, as you can see by the little timer over in the corner. Now, if you are especially bad at this, you can completely bypass this by using ciphers, which is ridiculous because the point of the test is to be able to hack. But the other thing I'll point out is that since Simaris will let us redo this test ad infinitum. If you have a hard time hacking and you want to get better at it, you can come back and just do this test over and over again. Now, one pointer I will give you is that when it comes to these kinds of codes, the center, the three-pointed ones always point towards the center, always.
A formidable performance. This test is now complete. Another job well executed.
So that's the Master Rank 5 test. It is... If you've been doing the hacking as much as I have, it is not terribly difficult. And like I said, if you have problems with the hacking minigame, you can come back and repeat that test over and over and over again until you get good at it, basically. Which makes it a nice practice tool.
Thank you for returning to me, operator.
Ah, yes, the daily login system. So, Oxium's not bad. Alright. Is there anything else that I needed to talk about that I haven't recently? Oh, yes. I have also recently realized that I have been doing something, I wouldn't say wrong in terms of the movement, but that there is a way that we can improve the movement of our movement through this game. And that is that we should be sprinting more. I've been previously a little dismissive of run speed, but then I realized that there is a toggle sprint button here, which means that we can have it so that we just tap the sprint button at the beginning of any mission, and we will be running constantly. Once you get to the point where you can be sliding all the time and bullet jumping all of the time, the next step in that parade is to turn on toggle sprint and go running as hard as you can, because you want to run. Running will make you faster in this game, and being fast is a big deal. Now, there is a tactical alert for Halloween, and we're going to do that. It says 8 days and 17 hours. Now, I have done this over on my testbed account, and the thing that you need to know ahead of time is that no matter what frame you bring, no matter what weapons you bring, before you go into this test, you will be reduced to...
All accounted for.
Thank you, Ordis. You will be reduced to, in the first version, 100 shields and 100 health, and in the second version, 50 shields and 50 health. And then there is a third version, which we will want to get through in order to get a very nice reward. And that one is also 50 shields and 50 health. You will have no weapons and access to no powers. I will freely admit that I got to the point where I did it. I kind of cheesed it by bringing a frame we don't have access to yet. But we'll see if we can't get this to work. The first two also have the advantage that we can kind of mess up a little bit. But the third one has some stricter requirements, because you need to achieve a certain score in order to get the reward. And the reward is a fully built Orokin reactor, which you can immediately install in your chosen Warframe. Now here's the other thing.
I'm still picking up signs of the infested.
This is It's labeled as a sabotage mission, but realistically, this is a boss fight. The only thing that matters is getting to the eventual boss as quickly as possible. Which actually makes me think that the next time we do this, we should bring Volt, because Rhino is on the slower side. Oh yes, and you'll notice we don't have a sentinel either. So, bother. Oh, right, this. So you need to get to the boss fight, and then the boss fight in question, you can't actually hurt the boss yourself. Okay, so we need to go over here. Because there are two places where you can pick up the energy cores or whatever it is that you need to use to open that door. One of them is over this way. There we go. Okay, so on this one, consider this a practice run to get good at the general mechanics of this particular game mode. On the timed version, because it's a timed version, I actually did use ciphers because it was a way to save a number of precious seconds. By the way, that's Rhino's passive. I forgot to mention that because it doesn't come up that much. He has essentially the heavy impact mod as a passive ability. It's not fantastic on him. It is, however, very in theme. So, the way that you beat this boss is you have to have him run, you have to light him on fire. So basically, now the fire doesn't hurt you, but does hurt the boss and the other enemies. Oh, nice. Okay. Now, the boss has a number of attacks, and we want to avoid him as much as possible. We want to avoid him and avoid his attacks as much as possible. Oh boy. Careful, dude. Don't get him stuck in the tree. This is one of the reasons why I eventually ended up doing this solo, because I could control the boss better. But basically, we want to ensure that... Okay. We want to get him into the fire as much as possible. Oh, crap. Ah! He hit us with his toxin attack. There is no, other than these little jack-o'-lantern fires, there is no damaging the boss. There's no point in getting into it. And apparently this guy doesn't know that because he keeps trying to get into a fight with the boss.
The outpost is
Okay, good.
Proceed to extraction.
That's the other thing, is this mode is not like other game modes. Ugh. So most of the normal rules don't apply.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
Interesting. Okay. Apparently, though, we can pick up the pigments. Yeah, I'm not surprised he did 100% damage. He was actually getting in fights with the enemies. As much as possible, we do not want to get into fights with enemies on that.
Inbox messages make me ill.
Oh, yeah. Ghouls are done. Day of the Dead sigil, which, honestly, oh yes, that was another thing I wanted to mention. So, because it is Halloween, there are a number of cosmetics in the shop that are only available for a very limited time. Now, since we do not have much in the way of platinum, we are not going to be picking up any of these. However, there is also the Halloween pigment set. This is a color scheme that can be picked up for 1 measly credit. I don't care how bad your in-game credit problems are. If you can't afford that,
Operator, are you enjoying the view?
we got to talk. In particular, so it's greens, yellows, oranges, and reds. And that's nice because it vastly expands our color options. And as you can see, it is listed as already owned. Which means we could also do, well, okay.
Ordis did not think the operator could be more attractive. Wrong again, Ordis.
We could also do a red or orange or yellow. Oh, goodness. Or, OD green Rhino. But I like our blue and green setup. It's a theme that's worked for us so far. But I did want to point that out. Definitely, you very rarely get cosmetic items that don't cost platinum, so we want to do that as much as possible. Why does it say the Void? That's weird. In any case, so that's probably because... So, interestingly enough, we now have an alert on Venus for a resource. This is nitane extract. It's alertium. It is used in the construction of a number of items that we are eventually going to want to build. And it only comes from alerts. So every time this pops up, unless it is in a location that you cannot get to, or in my case, on Europa, because I hate Europa. We'll talk about that more when we eventually get there. Always go and do this mission. Always go and do whatever the nitane alert is, because you really want the nitane. We really want nitane. You'll also, the nice thing is, in general, you'll find yourself with higher end players. Oh, okay. Elevator, right. you'll find yourself with higher end players because
Keep searching.
everybody needs Nitane.
They spotted you.
Yeah, well, that's not very surprising.
Heavy robotic signature detected. Lock and load. Alarms successfully hacked. The location is returning to normal security levels.
Yeah, see the beams?
You are approaching the holding area. Careful. If the wardens detect you, they will surely initiate the execution sequence. Bypass complete. You may proceed. The hostage is almost out of time. Hurry.
Get the door open! Take the stars, not a minute too soon.
Prisoner located.
Okay.
You need to get them back to command in one piece. Find your way to the exits, and don't leave the subject behind.
That's another thing.
I suppose you have an extra gun?
The Atomos has a very good chance of lighting enemies on fire, and enemies who get lit on fire panic. At least initially. Now, that's just bad form. Generally speaking, you want to wait for the rest of your team. Okay. We're going to go rack up some experience while we wait for the rest of our team. Thank you, Saren. Now, the one thing that does become a bit of an issue with the Atomos, especially at higher levels, is it does tend to run into a bit of ammo economy problems.
You've been locked out. Let's override the security.
But we're not really having that problem right now.
The captive has been
Oh, I
secured.
forgot to
You've done
do
your part,
that.
Tenno.
It's
We'll
fine.
take it from here.
Ooh, excellent. We're at rank 3 now. Which means we have Iron Skin. Host migration. Delightful. Fortunately, host migration isn't as much of an issue when you're running a normal mission, but I've been doing some things lately where host migration literally will get you killed. So, we are going to equip Helios, and we're going to equip Helios with his weapon, which admittedly isn't a very good weapon, but, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, that's pretty good. Definitely the blue. And then we're going to upgrade Helios. He's supposed to come with... Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah, we'll leave that on there, and we're going to put on Investigator, and then we're going to go to mods. Don't really care about targeting receptor. Okay, we're going to bump this up to there. Burning through our cache like crazy.
Everything in orders, operator?
Is that a pun?
Fortunately, we have a grinding spot available to us. Also, and this has not mattered previously,
Not taken any.
but these things run from top left to bottom right in order priority, which means we're going to put targeting receptor down here and investigator up here, because we want him scanning stuff far more than we want him shooting things. Oh, yes, and he does not have enough room for that, and vacuum. You know what, we'll put on a lower level vacuum, because yes, this is very important. He will scan things for us and start filling up our codex. And that is a big, big deal. At least it is to me. That said, we will eventually get him up to a level where he has room for all of this stuff. And as a side note relating to that, apparently Helios Prime is one of those things that is always in the reward pool from various relics and so forth. So, do we have any? Oh, yeah, we've got the Zon, the Fang Prime. Okay.
Channel, a new alert has begun. It will be marked on navigation.
Thank you. So he is always... So his Prime version is always available, and we're going to want to pick that up when we can. I love that. Crit chance and crit damage, just a dash, just nothing. You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. All of the Sentinel weapons are just terrible. But that reminds me of why... So, you may also notice in the Foundry, I built a Kronos. Because it is a very inexpensive weapon to put together. So, we're going to equip it, and it is also hard MR fodder. The only purpose this weapon has is giving us mastery rank, because it's not a very good weapon. Do we even have a stance? We do not. It does, however, happily have a polarity slot that matches our damage mod. So that's good. Alright. So, do we have anything else that we need to do before we go do this alert? Don't care. That's all stuff that's going to be there later. All stuff that's going to be there later. Okay. So, we're going to do part 2 of the Halloween Nightmare. And we are going to go over to... Let's see here. I think we're actually going to do this as Ash, because despite the fact that we can't use any of our abilities, we're doing it solely and completely because Ash has the highest sprint speed of all of the Warframes that we have access to. So, Oh, and by the way, I don't think I mentioned this previously, but the Dread, being a bow, is silent. So it has become our primary weapon for spy missions because it is silent. Nice color scheme. Please, for the love of Bob, tell me that this person... Come on. I hate this glitch. Alright.
I'm still picking up signs of the infested. Keep hunting.
Ferrite. Ferrite. We don't care that much. Like I said, because time doesn't matter on this mission, I'm going to save the ciphers for when it does. I know we don't normally want to get into fistfights with these enemies, but, you know. Yeah, sometimes you're going to need to go up, sometimes you're going to need to go down. But in any case, you want to try and get to... You want to try and run these missions as quickly as you can, because the final version is timed. And think of this like a bullfight. You want to, well, you want to not do what I just did and get hit. You want to bait him into charging at you and getting hit by the fire. Okay. Where is he? Okay. Please tell me this guy's not trying to actually... Okay. Yeah, the Phantom Ancient Disruptors are annoying because they can pull you away from the fight.
to extraction.
And by the way, yes, the arena, the way to the arena for this fight is different every time, but the actual, for crying out loud. Ugh. But the actual arena itself is always the same. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Oh, right, because marking them doesn't cost you anything. Now, I will point out that this does not disable passive abilities. So... Oh. Fell off. Really? Because this guy because one of our people, the new guy as it were, got completely lost. We are now stuck on the extraction point, getting into a fight we don't want to get into.
Job well executed.
Hmm.
Messages in your inbox, operator. They are not as encrypted as they should be.
So we got a skin for the Dread. In any case, as I was saying, so passive abilities are not disabled. So we don't have any of the Warframes that can take advantage of this. But the two big things are that there's a Warframe called Limbo who has a passive ability to jump into an alternate dimension that largely makes him invulnerable. He's actually one of my favorite Warframes. We will eventually be picking him up, even though we are on a bit of a budget, because he's very, very useful. That's one way to cheese that fight. The other thing is that there's a Warframe called Korra, who only drops from a mode called Sanctuary Onslaught, and it's regular Sanctuary Onslaught. There's an elite version that does not drop her or her parts.
Visualizing a bloody battle.
Me too.
Thank you, Ordis. And one of her abilities is that she can it's an actual ability that allows her to summon a cat pet. Now, normally you can get a Kavat as a companion, but normally companions are disabled. But I don't know if this is because the event is older than her, or because it's listed as something she's always able to do. But she is able to summon her pet, and the pet can actually do damage. So there is that possibility. I'm going to hop into the Discord for my clan and see if anybody is willing to run the timed Day of the Dead event. Actually, I'm going to put it into the regular clan chat. see here. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time before people notice. If we have to, we'll run solo because it's easier to manage the fight that way, but I'd really like to have... If possible, I'd like to have somebody who knows what they're doing come with us. The other thing about the event is that it doesn't yield experience. So we are not getting any of our equipment boosted. Still, it is an event worth doing because the rewards can be very, very good. Alright, well, nobody's getting back to us, so we're going to... So if we look, it is a timed event. The time starts at 999.
Limited mission alert available. Check navigation.
Thank you. And we'll tick backwards, and we have to get... We have to get the mission done before it hits 666. And when we say done, that includes extraction. So we're going to try this once with other people. And hopefully we'll get a good group that knows what they're doing. If not, then we'll try running it solo.
Sensors show this outpost is crawling with infested. Exterminate the threat.
Alright. Oh, we've got a limbo. Nope, doesn't help.
I'm still picking up signs of the infested. Keep hunting.
I was wondering if using the assassin vision sort of thing that Ash gets would give us better visibility, but no, it does not. Okay. So... that's that. Then we need to go over... well, he's out of luck. Huh. Weird. Where is... okay. So there's that. So where is the other one? Not even slowing down to fight. Did this get glitched or did... Oh, okay. Somebody got the other one. Which means I'm actually running behind. Here I am so concerned about us being fast and I'm the one slowing us down. Terrible. Stay out of the smog. Yeah, we're trying to bait him into coming over here and fighting. Come on. Get over here, you... Dagnabbit. He knocked me away. Come on. This is why I don't like doing this with other people. Because sometimes the boss can't decide who to attack. Well, we are accidentally in the rift, which is fine because as long as we're here.
Is clean. Proceed to extraction.
Okay. If we are very, very lucky. Nope, we're not going to make it. 662. Dagnabbit. Alright, we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to do it solo.
Another job well executed.
By the way, I should mention that there is a Halloween helmet that is available that is a pumpkin head. If that is your thing, that is your jam. If you like that sort of thing, you can go ahead and do that. I personally think it looks dumb. Why does he keep trying to take us back to the void? But if you want to do...
Sensors show this outpost is crawling.
If you want to wear the pumpkin head, you can. Now, unlike the color palette, which is yours forever once you buy it. The pumpkin head thing is only available, will only work and only last for a limited period of time. Which is one of the reasons why I don't think it's worth getting, because it only works for a limited period of time. What the? Oh, crap.
I'm still picking up signs of the infested. Keep hunting.
Yeah, I love how she says that, like, we're actually here to fight the infested. Ah. By the way, by default, the key to use a cipher on... There is a keybind to use a cipher on any of the hacking. It's the Y key. It's not what I'm looking for, but it's good that we know that's there. And apparently, it can't be rebound. Ah! Freaking dagnabbit. Get away. Silly phantasmal beasts. Okay, come on. Now the reason why this fight is oddly, at least in the timed version, easier with one person is because you don't have to wonder which person the boss is going to be attacking next. There's only one option. Yeehaw! Ah, crap, smog. Where is he? Okay, smog, but it's not anywhere near us. Ow! Freaking! Ancient disruptor spirits are the worst. Come on. Crap. Ugh. He's almost dead, though. Come on, come on, come on.
The outpost Atomos.
Yes! Alright, now we just need to get out of here alive. Yes! We did it. Whew. It's close, but we did it. Alright.
Inbox messages await the operator. I wonder what they say.
And delightfully, this is a fully built Orokin reactor. It's not a blueprint. So, for example, we go in here. We actually already have a schematic for an Orokin reactor, but it requires neural sensors, which we don't have. So, now, the $64 million question. Which frame do we put the reactor in? Now, because Ash Prime was given to us by Digital Extremes...
Suits you. Ha, ha.
Thank you, well, thank you, Ortis. He already came with a reactor. Rhino, as much as I love him, he is not a particularly hungry frame in terms of capacity. Well, that's not entirely true. But the things that he really needs are things we don't have access to. Like I said, there are... It's weird because the best builds for a number of frames will occasionally use an augment. Rhino is the only frame I know of whose best build requires 2 augment mods which come from syndicates. However, those mods are nice, but they're something we don't need until further in the game than we are. Now, that's not to say that Rhino won't eventually get his own potato. He will. But for now, I'm going to put our first one in Volt because we want to be able to put on a more powerful Intensify, a more powerful Streamline. We want to, at the very least, increase his increase the vitality. Put a better stretch on here. Put continuity on here. There are a lot of options and things that we want to do to Volt, and we just can't do them with his current mod capacity. So he gets the potato first. I know there are some people who will disagree with me. They can do it their way on their account. This is mine. This is how I'm showing people how to play. And this is where I'm starting with it. So, now that we have that, we're going to go into mods. And the first thing we're going to do is see if we can... Well, we can definitely afford it endo-wise. So we're going to bump Intensify up by 2.
Operator, are you enjoying the view?
We're going to bump Stretch up. Since it's in a slot that reduces its cost. I should say it's...
Operator, I have not taken any.
Thank you, Ortis. So both of those are excellent increases. We'll throw continuity on there. Let's see here. No. By the way, this is a mod that we picked up from the Ghoul event that was last week. Converts damage into health. Oddly enough, so Ash is a stealth frame. Ideally, you don't want to be taking damage with him. Volt, as much as I like him, is squishy, and you don't want to be taking damage with him if you can help it. And Rhino's iron skin prevents Hunter Adrenaline from working, because it has to be health damage. Taking damage on on the armor provided by Iron Skin doesn't change anything for him. So, yeah. That's kind of where we are. So, at the moment, Hunter Adrenaline isn't good on any of the frames that we have. Now, that's not to say it's not good on any frame. There are actually a number of frames, and in particular, there is the support frame I suspect we will get first, which is Oberon, can actually make really good use of Hunter Adrenaline, because he has the ability to take damage, which gives him energy, and then heal himself, and then take more damage. It becomes an infinite loop of him taking damage that gives him energy, and using that energy to heal himself. Interestingly, you can do that on him, but you can't do that on one of the other supports, Trinity, because, and she's kind of the premier support, but you can't use Hunter Adrenaline on her because she's kind of squishy, and she will die before she gets enough energy out of it. That said, she has her own much better ways of getting energy anyway. We can now get rid of this flawed flow and put on the real one, although honestly I would prefer, I've actually had better luck when it comes to this sort of thing with having higher efficiency rather than more energy. That said, we only have the one efficiency mod. So, and speaking of which, we should see about, boy, we're burning through funds fairly quickly. Okay, so, and between his increased energy pool and his improved efficiency, and the other thing I want to point out, and this is the thing I didn't know until a couple of weeks ago, when Brozine mentioned it on one of his streams, and I'm like, oh, really? So, see how we have 16 mod capacity left over? If you have leftover, so there's a default amount of energy that you start with at the beginning of every mission. If you have mod capacity left over, it gives you additional energy at the beginning of the mission. So you start fuller.
Tenno, a new alert has begun. It will be marked on navigation.
Thank you. So in this case, having the extra mod capacity left over isn't a problem necessarily, because that means we'll start the mission with more energy when we play as Volt. And the stuns from our shock ability will last longer. Our shields will last longer if we put them up. And our fourth ability, Discharge, will last longer, which means it will do more damage to enemies. Because of Intensify, it will do more damage to enemies. Everything costs less. We have a higher pool. All of this is just really good. So, oh, yes, we need to change that out because the Atomos is now our sidearm of choice. Wait, I wanted to change back over to this loadout. There we go. Alright. Now, the next thing is, now that we have... Hello, dear. Now that we have Helios to scan things for us, we need... By the way, I do need to point out, so, the Atomos is available from the marketplace. No, don't pay. Never, ever, ever pay platinum for a weapon. I've amended my position on paying platinum for Warframes, but that's a discussion we're going to have at a later time when we have more platinum. But so it does require 2 argon crystals, and argon crystals drop from the void, as we've experienced previously. I did Teshup, which is an Orokin exterminate mission. Normally, if you're just going to farm Orokin crystals, you would go to Hepit. And the reason that we did the capture mission for Orokin crystal, Argon crystal farming, is because you run down the capture target, you kill him. And in particular, they changed a few things, I think it was 2 months ago, so that instead of you getting endless enemies after you take down the capture target, once you take down the capture target, the level stops spawning enemies, which means you can roam around and look for these things. We were lucky enough that we found all of the Argon crystals that we needed on Teshup, so I haven't bothered to do the rest of these. We are eventually going to do them, but for now, we need to do some grinding. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention is we got to the point where I did some missions over here on Simaris, and there are 2 missions worth noting. Now, Gabby over here, goodbye. I'm always, despite being a bit of a grammar fascist, I'm never sure how you pronounce the double I thing. Mostly because it's not actually something English does. You never see 2 I's together. Usually that's something inherited from Greek or from a Middle Eastern language. In any case, let's see, that's your tier 2. But Gabby, I'm just going to call it Gabby over here, is a good place to get resources in general, and in particular has a high chance of dropping Orokin cells. Simony, whatever. On the other hand, is a good place to not only grind if you need affinity and experience to raise up your weapons and such. There's a better place for that, but at the level we're playing at, this is not only a good place for that, but the average payout for a mission is 25,000 credits. So if you need credits and you haven't gotten to Neptune, because there's a mission on the highest paying mission in the game is on Neptune, then this is not a bad place. And a lot of groups know this, so and I need to point out, since it's a defense mission, it is an endless mission, which means you can run as many waves as you want. However, it doesn't change the amount of money that you get. So most groups will run 5 waves, get to the first reward, leave, and rinse and repeat. Also, since it takes place on Simaris, you will on average get an ore can sell, or maybe two, every couple of missions. That said, we actually want to... Ooh, yes. We're going to want to do... I want to do a Void Fisher, because we have some relics to crack. Excavation is my favorite kind of Void Fisher, because you always need more cryotic. And part of the reason why we want to crack relics is because we can sell stuff that comes out of relics for platinum. And we have some relics. At this point, we don't even necessarily care, per se, what comes out of them. Although, if we get a Chroma Prime Neuroptics, we're going to be really happy, because that sucker will sell for a good chunk of change. Well, that's delightful. They want us to get kills with our pistol, and we want to get kills with our pistol, so that works out happily for everyone.
Go to the dig site. Void fissures. You need them to open a relic, but are you confident you can withstand their... We're near a fissure.
Oh, I forgot to do this.
Excavator deployed. Protect the unit while it extracts the artifact. Are dropping reactant. Don't forget the reactant. You need more to open that relic. The excavator has run out of power. Find a cell.
By the way, those enemies that you can see highlighted in orange, that is Helios scanning them. These guys are always... Oh, that's always nice. This happens a lot when one of the extractors is over there. You'll find that the next extractor is right here.
Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire.
By the way, one of the reasons why we like Helios so much and having him scan stuff for us is because, in addition to filling up our codex, we get affinity for successful scans.
Take it complete. Your hard work has just been rewarded.
Alright, and we are... There we go. We are full up on reactant.
That's it. You opened the relic. Finish your mission and we'll take a look inside.
Either this is bugged and it's not registering our pistol kills, or everybody else is doing so much damage. No, I think it's just bugged.
Excavator is ready to go. Keep it powered and protected from enemy fire.
I think it's just bugged and it's just not registering our...
Extraction is available if you choose.
our kills for our pistol. Sure, we'll take that. By the way, if we hadn't already gotten the Dread, the Paris Prime would be an excellent choice. But we did already get the Dread, so... Oh, for crying out loud. Really? Generally, if somebody doesn't equip a relic...
Picked up a target. Go to the dig site.
Ugh. And the person hosting left, so we get host migration. Fortunately, this probably won't end up killing us. But it can be fantastically annoying. Also, host migration removes our iron skin.
On your relic. Find more.
But if we're really lucky... Hey, I think it fixed the glitch, though. Because now we're getting credits for our kills. That's another thing. Nullifiers and nullifier bubbles are our enemies as Rhino. Man, I love this weapon. It's really, really handy. And there's our tent.
The relic has been cracked open. Finish your mission to find out what's inside.
Ah! Yeah, iron skin. Normally, if an arsenal released a flame burst like that, we would be in a bad place. But we're Rhino. We don't care. Actually, no, we'll do the Zephyr Neuroptics. They're not worth a whole lot, but they're worth more than... Looks like we're extracting.
Keep fighting. Look for more reactors.
Now, despite the fact that we are going to be extracting shortly... Oh! We already got our kills. Okay. As I say, we want to make sure that we get our kills, but we already got them, so... Yeah. We're out of here. Man, sometimes I hate these ledges and stuff. Actually, that's not true. Most of the time I hate anything that overhangs in this game. Yeah, we're not going to make it to extraction before we actually get pulled out, but that's okay. Wow, look at all of that. Damage taken 9%. And it's not uncommon as Rhino to exit a mission with damage taken 0%. I've done that a lot. Yeah, I can't blame him for being annoyed. I really do not understand the mentality of people who come on who go on an excavation mission and do one. Okay, let's see. What else do we want to put on here? See, on the upside, Rhino has a couple of polarities for these. And by the way, there is a common misconception that only steel fiber or only your armor rating affects your iron skin. It's actually both your armor rating, both your armor and your health, which is why, in addition to the fact that the ability itself ranks up, as you rank up and you get more health, your iron skin gets more powerful. Ideally, probably the first thing we'd want to put on.
What are you thinking about?
Thinking about my mods, Ortis. Ideally, we'd probably want to put on Streamline first, because efficiency is something that Rhino can definitely benefit from. However, it's going to be another 4 ranks before we can do that, so we're going to throw on some additional armor, because more armor is never a bad thing. Oh, yes, I know what I should do. Yeah, we'll go ahead and remove... Actually... We'll leave that on here because I just realized that I can't put on what I want to put on until we get another rank. So it is what it is. Alright. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the fact that the Atomos comes with heat damage as opposed to other damage types is that because it is purely elemental, that means that whenever we stick another elemental mod on here, it automatically combines with the heat to form an effect. So we throw on electricity and we automatically get radiation. We throw on just toxin and we automatically get gas. Now if we were to throw on a second elemental type, say if we were to throw on the electricity as well, we would get corrosive and heat. Because in terms of priority, because for these things it always goes from top left to bottom right. In terms of priority-wise, the basic elemental type of the weapon is kind of like over here. In fact, we are going to take off the bonus crit chance. We are eventually going to put that back on, but we'll take it off for now. Booger. Right, because it's only 4. You know what? I think more effective model would be. And this is getting expensive. Still. So, since the first thing you put on any weapon, regardless of the weapon, is plus base damage, that's the number one thing you want to put your forma, or not your forma, but you want to put your investment into. Hornet Strike, Serration, Point Blank for shotguns, Pressure Point for melee weapons. You want to max out those mods as soon as you can, because they are always a thing. And then the other thing we can do is we can throw on Heated Charge, which effectively acts like a second Hornet Strike in this case, because it is a purely elemental weapon. So that's going to give us 45%, effectively 145% additional damage between these two mods. Not bad. Alright, no, that was what I wanted to do. Yeah, okay.
Operator,
We did put some things on here. And we can now put on our higher rank vacuum, because since it has the matching polarity, that reminds me. So, the thing about, I had a feeling about that. Since Helios uses our, oh good grief. I hate that. Sorry. There's one thing, if there's one thing I really do not like about the new gear wheel, it is the fact that it keeps collapsing down all of these things. I put them in a position for a specific reason, and the fact that it keeps moving them on me is really going to damage my calm. I'm going to have to change my key bindings. Okay. Well, we'll work this out. I'm not going to do this on stream though. But you'll notice at one point we had scanners in here. We don't anymore. That's because Helios used them all. So, the very first thing that we actually need to do for Helios is we need to get unlimited scanners. Now, how do we do that? Because there is a way. Let me check and see here. Yeah, that mission's gone, which is fine. So we're going to go to this relay. And if I'd been a little bit smarter, we would have done this earlier. But here we are. So, the looming Simaris.
Knowledge of the sanctuary. These can make you an even stronger hunter.
Thank you, Simaris. So,
Knowledge is the path to the singularity.
For 50,000 standing with Simaris, we can get the Soul Battery widget, which basically gives us unlimited charges on his scanner. So first we're going to buy some of his scanners, and yes, they're 25.
What offerings will this item help you bring to the sanctuary?
They're 5,000 for 25. And then we're going to come over here. I'm going to talk to Simaris.
Your dedication to the sanctuary. This fine specimen could be the next addition to the sanctuary. Help me discover its secrets.
I need to check something on the wiki. Okay. Because we need to figure out... So, the task itself will give us 5,000 standing and 400 endo. He only wants 2 scans. Just trying to remember if there are any of the mission types that are best for getting infested scans. That we can do. Oh, because I don't remember. Tell you what, we'll tell him.
Lost the fortitude that the sanctuary requires of its hunters. A shame.
Yeah. Actually, wait. We'll just go to navigation because we can look at. Oh, that reminds me. So, I think I mentioned this before. So, we've been running extractors in order to get resources. And this is one of the few things that is actually better in the app than it is in the game, because you can retrieve your extractors at once through just clicking on that. But in order to deploy an extractor, you have to actually go to the planet in question, click deploy extractor. We're going to deploy the other one on Phobos because it has the other materials we most want. But anyway, and you have to actually go to the planet, which can be annoying when you have more of the map unlocked, because you're like, what planet has what again? On the app, it's just a list, and you can scroll through the list and go, oh, put it on this one. In any case, let's see here. Okay, normally this is defense. Survival. Mobile defense would probably work. Because ideally you want a mission where you can spawn, where you have the time to go hunting down the enemy that you are looking for, and for them to have spawned in at the beginning of the mission. Defense doesn't work because there are no enemies there at the beginning of the mission. Survival can work. It's not my preferred, but survival can work. The problem is you then have to be able to survive. Mobile defense is probably the best, though. So we'll go tell Simaris we can do this. And then we'll go do that. It is also worth noting, so our standing limit is 6,000.
I can see you are hungry for the knowledge of the sanctuary. I have a thirst for knowledge that only the sanctuary and I await your contribution.
So, actually scanning the target is worth a little over 3,000 standing. But turning in the mission gives you standing in addition to that. So, by scanning the target, Simaris, would you please back the hell off? So, by scanning the target a couple of times, we're going to easily hit our standing maximum. And then we're going to get another 5,000 from Simaris. We had 5,000 already from doing the intro mission. So, we're going to have about 16,000 by the time we're done. That does mean that it's going to be several days of scanning before we can... before we're going to have enough to give Helios unlimited scanners. Which also means for the purposes of this mission, we actually need to equip Taxon because we don't want him... because we don't want Helios using up our scanners before we have properly scanned the target that we're looking for. We're going to put this on friends only.
This is a mobile defense mission. You must deliver payloads and defend a number of locations while I break into the network. Be prepared for heavy resistance. I can't do this without you.
Thank you, Space Mom. Okay, so if you load into a mission and you don't get Simaris telling you there's a sanctuary target here, you don't do the mission. Not if you're trying to scan the targets and get your Simaris rep. So we're going to try that again. I'm going to give it 3 tries, and if we don't hear from Simaris on any of them, we're going to go check and see if the survival mission will give us a synthesis target.
This is a mobile defense mission. You must deliver payloads and defend a number of locations while I break into the network. Be prepared for heavy resistance. I can't do this without you.
Nope. Okay. We'll give this one more try, and then if we don't hear from Simaris, we'll go try the survival mission.
This is a mobile defense mission. You must deliver payloads and defend a number of locations while I break into the network. Be prepared for heavy resistance. I can't do this without you.
Nope. Okay. Sometimes it depends on the map you load into. I've had several synthesis targets where I load into the map, I don't hear from Simaris, then I load into a different map for the same mission, and he's like, "There's totally a synthesis target here. Go get him." Oh, frick. I know why we're not hearing from him, because I'm a moron. We forgot to equip the synthesis scanner.
You must provide
I'm
for
dumb.
antenna operative. Set off the
That's why we weren't... Forgive me, dear viewer. Normally I'm smarter than this.
actually. We're going to rearrange this. Put this here. Oh, annoying. Okay. And then our glyph. And we're going to have to change that key binding right now because I don't want to forget.
Operator, I run diagnostic regressions. All systems nominal. You don't need to thank me.
Okay. So we'll go try that again. I can't believe I forgot to equip the synthesis scanner. I'm so used to having them equipped. Let's try this again.
This is a mobile defense mission. You must deliver payloads and defend a number of locations while I break into the network. Be prepared for heavy resistance. I can't do this without you.
Nope. Let's try this. We'll give it 3 times with the scanner equipped, and then we'll see.
This is a mobile defense mission. You must deliver payloads and defend a number of locations while I break into the network. Be prepared for heavy resistance. I can't do this without you.
Okay, we'll go try the survival mission.
Distract the infested while a lone Tenno operative hunts for supplies. Set off the alarms to start.
Okay, we have it equipped, so... Let me go check something else. Because as I recall... Defense. That's right. There is, but it's... We would have to do Oro. Alright, let's see. Mars. Defense. Defense. My preferred mission are excavation missions because... the enemies... The enemies load in. There are enemies at the beginning of the mission.
Anything in orders, operator? Is that a pun? I will attempt to bypass this fault.
Yeah, defection missions.
Talk again.
Hmm. We could totally do that, because it wouldn't. There are always enemies at the start of a defection mission. Let's give this a try.
Scattered survivors of this infestation have barricaded themselves in safe areas throughout this galleon. Escort the crew to the waiting escape ship. Don't be alarmed by the crew. They're Grineer defectors, rescued by Steel Meridian, but too broken to join their ranks. Instead, they've banded together in search of a more peaceful life. They call themselves Kavor.
Simaris? Got anything to say? Nope. Okay. We'll give this a couple of tries, and then if it doesn't work, we'll go back to Simaris and we'll tell him, sorry buddy, can't do it.
Survivors of this infestation have barricaded themselves in safe areas throughout this galleon. Escort the crew to the waiting escape ship. The crew here are Kavor defectors, Grineer who rejected the violence they were created for. Rather than join Steel Meridian, they've chosen a different path, seeking a dream of existence where they would not be forced to commit more atrocities.
Well, that's nice, but... Alright, we're gonna give this one more try, and then... if that doesn't work out, we're gonna do that nightmare mission real quick, and then we're gonna tell Simaris that, sorry, I can't manage it.
The scattered survivors of this infestation have barricaded themselves in safe areas throughout this galleon. Escort the crew to the waiting escape ship. The crew here are Kavor defectors, Grineer who rejected the violence they were created for. Rather than join Steel Meridian, they've chosen a different path, seeking a dream of existence where they would not be forced to commit more atrocities.
Alright. Well, this is embarrassing and very annoying, but it is what it is. So we'll go ahead and put this on public, and we're going to go try and do this assassination mission. The reason why I love Rhino for nightmare modes, and especially nightmare no shield modes, is because it's Rhino. Once you put the iron skin on, you don't care about shields.
Assassination contracts are not to be taken lightly. Eliminating this target will have a significant impact on enemy forces. Search the area. Leave no survivors.
By the way, I want you to listen to this. I love the sound. One of the things I love most about the Dread is the sound. It's got an amazing sound. What was that? Bastards. Admittedly, we're not as hard up for them as we used to be, especially since I've had excavator or extractors running on this map pretty much since we cleared it, but plastids are still a thing we kind of need. So, you know, if they're literally just sitting right there.
You're on the sensors now. You've been detected.
Where is he? That works too.
Target down. Assassination contract complete. Great work, Tenno. We've got robots inbound.
Of course we got robots inbound. The Corpus.
Big body reinforcements. A Bursa.
Well, that's nice. They can burst all they want. We're leaving.
Target down. Assassination contract complete. Great work, Tenno.
Shred wouldn't have been my first choice, but okay. That reminds me. We need to put there we go. Say we put it on blue and you basically can't even tell it's there.
See the value of those photonic wavelengths until now.
Also, yeah. It's not bad. Better. I think I like that. Also, it appears we have a friend request from somebody. Sure. Why not? Huh. So Weeaboo Jones over here, who's MR19, is apparently farming mag, because that's the #1 reason why you would be on Phobos. And our buddy Laser is in the simulacrum, which means he's doing testing. And in fact, I happen to know exactly what weapon he's testing, because he was talking about it earlier.
Operator, I've run diagnostic regressions. All systems nominal. You don't need to thank me.
Alright, so we'll go tell Simaris that we apologize, but we can't actually do what he needs us to do. Unless... Sorry, I'm contemplating, because Tikal is an infested excuse me. It's an excavation mission against the infested. But in order to get to it, we would have to do the Vehek assassination mission, which we can technically do because we are higher enough master rank to do it. But I don't know that I'd want to try it with the equipment that we have. Okay. Weird. Oh, that's a possibility. We could do that. Tell you what, we're going to do some grinding. Ooh. There's an excavation fissure on Mars. We may want to look into that too. But first we're going to do this. So, little trick here. You trigger the elevator, it goes up, and then you fall into the bottom, and it will actually, the point that it brings you back to is up here. Don't put on your iron skin until after you've done that little trick, because falling off the edge of the map removes iron skin. It's annoying. Oh, somebody's playing a Gara. I recognize the sound of them using one of their abilities. Ooh. Somebody brought a Necros. It's delightful. Not only are there going to be health orbs all over the place, what is up with the magazine on this thing? But there's a decent chance that they will desecrate an Orokin cell from one of the enemies. You always check the lockers though, just in case. But you see how the magazine is like floating off of... That's weird. It's a minor thing, but like I said, there have been bugs all over since the mainline patch about a week and a half ago. Most of them are minor, but... So this is Gara's fourth ability, and it basically puts up a barrier. You can just put the barrier up and leave it up, but that's actually not the best way to play Gara. But we'll get to that one when we eventually have Gara. The fact that the Atomos chains from one enemy to the next, though, makes it really good against the infested. Also, heat is generally a very good damage type against the infested. Also makes it a very good weapon for grinding because you can kill a lot of enemies very quickly. Mm. Not that we really need the extra damage, but why not?
Extraction is ready, unless you can handle more of the enemy.
I think somebody doesn't know what's up here, but that's okay.
Very impressive, Tenno. You held them all back. Time to get out of here.
Yeah, see, 26,000 credits for 5.5 minutes work. Oh, and 0% damage taken, because damage to our armor doesn't count. Very nice.
Excellent armaments, operator. Please return
Covered in blood.
safe and sound.
Okay, so we're gonna do this because I would really like it to have some corrosive damage. Corrosive damage is excellent against the Grineer, as I previously mentioned. It's also perfectly fine against the infested because none of their various types have any resistance to it, and some of them are actually vulnerable to it. The only group that doesn't have a problem with, or the only group that is not negatively affected by corrosive damage are the Corpus, and if we want to do Corpus, we just do gas damage. So... yeah.
Do you remember the old war, operator? Ordis seems to have misplaced those memories.
Okay, so we can do... We're going to drop that and do... Now, I know what you're wondering. Why viral? Well, so the thing about viral damage is when the status effect goes off, which admittedly isn't going to be all of the time, we don't have a huge status effect, but when it does inflict a status effect, it temporarily reduces the health of an enemy by 50%. So we have a very strong chance of inflicting slash procs with this weapon, both from its innate status chance and from hunter munitions. And then we have a mild chance of temporarily cutting the target's health in half whilst it takes the damage over time from the slash proc. So we are essentially double dipping in our ability to damage a target and cause it to die from our shots and from our damage over time. Now, I will freely admit, this is not an optimal build, but it is what is available to us at current. By the way, I do want to point out, if we had, so we've only ever had one forma, which I used to build Helios. If we had added a forma, there would be a little number up here telling us, which means this weapon came with 2 V polarities, which is very nice. Also, so whenever you do get a status proc, the weapon has to the computer has to decide what effect actually happens based off of the damage types that are on here. So I know, so you're looking at this and going, well, doesn't that mean we're less likely to get a slash proc because these two are similar in number? Well, we're less likely to get a slash proc because there are more status types on here, but the physical damage types, impact, puncture, and slash, have a 4 times greater chance of proccing than the elemental types. So we are still much more likely to get a slash proc than we are to get a viral proc, but viral is our next most likely option. This is, by the way, why some people who talk about weapons and talk about the effectiveness of weapons in this game make such a big deal out of purely elemental weapons like the Atomos, because since it has just gas damage, that means that any time we get a status proc, it will always be a gas proc. Okay? If we are over here on our Grineer/Infested build, technically we're more likely to get a heat proc because that has the most damage. But when we eventually pump this up, because we will, and corrosive is the higher of the two, we will be much more likely to get a corrosive proc. So, we're going to go back and we're going to do another round of some grinding. And then after this mission, I think the theater is going to have to close because I'm starting to feel a little unwell. Atom star. That is very nice. We're looking for Orokin cells. Also, one I missed on, a couple I missed on our last mission here. And there's one back here. I do really like this weapon. It is one of my favorites. Our Rhino fashion frame actually still looks pretty good even with his iron skin. You'd be surprised how often the iron skin makes Rhino's fashion frame look terrible, at least on the basic Rhino. Yes, there is a prime version of Rhino. He is sadly vaulted though, and was recently unvaulted, but that unvaulting passed. By the way, an interesting note about the Atomos, since it chains from one target to the next, one of the best ways to destroy a group of enemies with the Atomos is to pick out whoever is the toughest enemy, point your Atomos at him, her, it, whatever, and let it chain from them into all of the other enemies. Gotta love it.
Reinforcements available. Do you choose to leave now or continue fighting? That's the last of them. Objective is secure. Let's go home.
And again, 0% damage. Zero % damage taken. Alright. That was not at all a bad run of events.
Well, how the Tenno arm themselves.
Let's see. Okay. So we are sadly still one level away from being able to put on Streamline. That's okay though. We're leveling Rhino up pretty quickly here. And we're making a nice chunk of change. It's fine. Very nice. So we're going to go over here. Since we have more than one convulsion.
Angry.
I may require maintenance after all.
Why did I have... Oh. I probably didn't. I probably had... No. I really have no clue. As much as I like the Lex, I think in a few... I think we're quickly surpassing its usefulness. All of that said, we're going to go back over here to this build. And... well, as I said, I am starting to feel less than well, so I'm going to retire for the evening. Thank you very much for joining me. And the theater is closed. I will see you all, well, I hope Friday, but after last week, we'll see. Go get some sleep, fellow insomniacs, and good night.